Yusuf's journey so far has been one of profound trials and tribulations. He had been betrayed by his own brothers, separated from his beloved father, sold into slavery, and subsequently faced temptation at every turn. Adding to his adversity, he then had to endure unjust imprisonment for 7 years. However, after Yusuf's release from prison, a remarkable turn of events awaited him. Not only was he cleared of any wrongdoing, but his reputation and honor were also fully restored. As he emerged from the darkness of imprisonment, he found himself stepping into the light of a new dawn. Yusuf was now ready to embrace the next chapter of his journey, a chapter that would see him ascend to unparalleled heights of position and power. For the trials of his past had merely been stepping stones to prepare him for the remarkable destiny that awaited him. The land of Egypt flourished with abundant crops and produce, each season yielding plentiful harvests. This transformation was the result of careful planning and foresight under the wise guidance of Yusuf and the blessings of Allah. Yusuf, who had now risen to a position of authority in Egypt, had implemented his plan that he had interpreted from the king's dream. He instructed the people to cultivate their lands diligently during times of plenty and to store away surplus grain and food supplies. His foresight and management were instrumental in preparing Egypt for the difficult times that lay ahead. Yusuf's leadership not only protected the physical well-being of the people, but also fostered a spirit of unity and resilience. The community helped one another and worked together, sharing the stored provisions fairly. As the years passed, the land of Egypt continued to prosper under Yusuf's wise governance. His actions and foresight established a legacy of resourcefulness and compassion. Through his efforts, Egypt emerged stronger and more unified, a testament to the enduring impact of one man's vision and leadership. And then, as prophesied, the 7 years of abundance and prosperity came to an abrupt end, giving way to the 7 years of drought and famine. The once thriving fields and gardens withered under the relentless heat, and the rivers dwindled to mere trickles. The people of Egypt, however, were well prepared, having heeded Yusuf's wise counsel to store surplus grain and ration during the years of plenty. As the drought spread its grip beyond Egypt's borders, the neighbouring regions, including Palestine, where Yaqub and his sons resided, felt the full force of the famine. With no one to manage their affairs as efficiently as Yusuf had managed Egypt's, their food reserves quickly diminished, leaving the land desolate and its people destitute. Yaqub, a wise and honoured prophet, saw his family and community suffering. As the situation grew more severe, he gathered his sons and instructed them to embark on a journey to Egypt to seek relief from the famine. "Go to Egypt," Yaqub said thoughtfully, "and acquire provisions to sustain our families through these trying times, but leave Benyamin behind." The mention of Benyamin, who was Yusuf's full brother, stirred a deep-seated fear within Yaqub. He remembered all too well the anguish of losing Yusuf, who had vanished without a trace. Yaqub concealed a deep concern that history might repeat itself, fearing that his other sons could subject Benyamin to the same fate that had been inflicted upon Yusuf. "I cannot bear to lose Benyamin," Yaqub confided to his sons. "I fear for his safety in a distant land." The brothers nodded solemnly, understanding their father's unspoken anguish. They set forth on their journey to Egypt, their hearts heavy with the weight of responsibility and unresolved guilt. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Yusuf's system of rationing was both methodical and just. Each individual, regardless of background or wealth, was allocated a fixed ration equivalent to a camel load of grains. This uniform distribution ensured that every person received a fair share of sustenance to endure the trials of famine. As the crowds gathered to collect their provisions, the scene of the distribution centers was one of organized chaos. Families lined up patiently, clutching tokens or markers signifying the number of heads in their household. Each person had to be present to receive their designated share of grain, proof to Yusuf's commitment to equitable distribution and accountability. Yusuf himself oversaw the process, observing the faces of those who approached, their eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and desperation. His heart stirred with empathy for their plight, knowing all too well the pain of hunger and uncertainty. Among the weary crowds stood his 10 brothers, awaiting their turn in line. Unbeknownst to them, Yusuf's gaze lingered upon them with a mixture of hope and alarm. Would they recognize him? Would they acknowledge the ties that bound them as a family? He observed his brothers closely, studying their faces etched with the weariness of the journey and the strain of famine. His brothers, unaware of his true identity, approached him with humility and desperation, seeking sustenance amidst the harsh realities of famine. Yusuf, with a composed manner, asked, "How many brothers are you?" The brothers exchanged a glance before one replied, "We are 11 brothers, but the youngest is with our father back in Canaan." Yusuf's gaze lingered thoughtfully on them. "You should have brought your younger brother with you," he remarked gently. "That way you would have received 11 loads of grain instead of 10. His brothers listened, their expressions a blend of curiosity and caution. They were unaware that the man before them was Yusuf, the brother they had betrayed and thrown into a well many years ago. Sensing their weariness from the journey and the weight of their circumstances, Yusuf extended an unexpected gesture of hospitality. "It would be best for you to rest here tonight," he offered warmly. "You can stay as my guests, and we will arrange for your departure back to Canaan in the morning." The brothers, still nervous and intrigued by their generous host, accepted Yusuf's hospitality for the night. They were treated with warmth and respect, and the weariness from the journey was momentarily eased by the comfort of their accommodations and the abundance of the meal provided. As morning dawned and the time for departure approached, Yusuf gathered his brothers before their leave. With a composed manner, he addressed them solemnly. "You have seen that I have been a good host to you," Yusuf began, his gaze steady upon each of his brothers. "Now, before you return to your homes, I will ask that you bring your youngest brother with you when you come next year." The brothers were taken back by the unexpected request. "Why do you ask this of us?" one of them inquired cautiously. Yusuf's expression softened slightly. "I ask this so that I may know that you are truthful and not deceiving me," he explained. "And also, when you return with your brother, you will receive not 10, but 11 camel loads of grain as your share." The brothers listened in silence, absorbing Yusuf's words. They understood the implications of his request, that their honesty and integrity were being put to the test, and the consequences of failing this test could be severe. "And if you do not bring your youngest brother upon your return," Yusuf continued, his tone firm, "then I will know that you have been lying to me, and you will be prohibited from receiving any further grains from me in the future." The weight of Yusuf's ultimatum hung heavy in the air. The brothers nodded in reluctant agreement, acknowledging the terms set forth by their enigmatic host. They knew that convincing their father would not be easy, given his deep-seated fear and protectiveness towards Benyamin, whom he viewed as the sole remaining connection to Yusuf. In the meantime, the brothers sought to engage in trade to acquire the necessary provisions for their return to Canaan. Gathering a selection of merchandise, they presented it to Yusuf as an offering in exchange for grain. Yusuf, however, had other plans. Aware of their impoverished circumstances, he instructed his men to discreetly return their merchandise into the bags of wheat they would receive in exchange. Yusuf's actions served a dual purpose. Not only did it ensure their material well-being, but it also reinforced the impression that he was a man of integrity and kindness. Yusuf's secret gesture was calculated to win their trust and convince their father, Yaqub, of the minister's goodwill. Yusuf sought to pave the way for Benyamin's eventual journey to Egypt, a journey that held the promise of healing old wounds and restoring old bonds. Upon their return to Canaan, Yaqub's sons recounted their journey to Egypt and the encounter with the minister, who had extended unexpected kindness and generosity. They relayed Yusuf's request for them to return with Benyamin the following year, emphasizing the consequences of failure. Yaqub listened intently to their tale, his heart torn between concern for Benyamin's safety and the desperate needs to secure provisions for their family amid the relentless famine. "Benyamin, my youngest son," Yaqub murmured, his eyes clouded with worry. The brothers, sensing their father's hesitance, pleaded with him sincerely. "Father, we must take Benyamin with us next year. It is the only way to prove our honesty to the minister and ensure that we continue to receive grain for our survival." Yaqub's protective instincts flared. "Can I entrust Benyamin to you as I once did with Yusuf?" he asked, his voice mixed with anguish and doubt. The mention of Yusuf's name caused a painful reminder of the son he had lost to betrayal and deception years ago. Yaqub could not bear the thought of risking Benyamin's safety, fearing a tragic repeat of history. In that moment, one of the brothers discovered their hidden merchandise in their grain sacks. They were astonished and relieved. "Look!" they exclaimed to their father. "We have our merchandise. We were not lying to the minister. He is a just man who wants us to prove our honesty. He has made it clear that if we do not return with Benyamin, we will receive nothing more." Yaqub, blessed with wisdom and intuition, observed his sons closely as they narrated their encounter with the minister of Egypt. The unfolding event seemed too extraordinary to be mere coincidence. Returning their merchandise and being required to bring Benyamin as proof of their truthfulness. "This is not normal," Yaqub murmured to himself, his mind racing with questions and suspicions. Why would this minister show such fairness and kindness? And why does he insist on seeing proof of Benyamin's existence? Yaqub's heart was deeply reluctant to part with Benyamin. However, Yaqub also knew that sending Benyamin with his brothers was essential to securing provisions for their survival and perhaps unraveling the mysteries that haunted their family. "I will not send Benyamin with you unless you promise me solemnly that you will bring him back to me unharmed, unless you are compelled and have no choice but to return." His sons, understanding the importance of their father's words, exchanged sincere glances. "We promise, father," they vowed earnestly. "We will protect Benyamin with our lives and return him to you untouched." Yaqub's heart ached with concern, yet he found solace in the faith and determination of his sons. "Allah is witness to what you have promised," he replied, his voice weighed down with emotion. "May He protect you and guide you." A year had passed, and the time had come for Yaqub's sons to embark once again on the journey to Egypt to retrieve sacks of grain and fulfill their promise to Yusuf, the minister of Egypt. Before their departure, Yaqub imparted his wisdom and guidance to his sons. "When you enter the city of Egypt," he instructed, "split up and do not all enter together from the same gates. This will prevent any evil eye from afflicting you and will also avoid suspicion that you are a large group coming to cause mischief." His words carried the weight of experience and foresight, reflecting a blend of tradition and practical wisdom. The brothers nodded in understanding, acknowledging the importance of discretion and caution in their interactions. "In Allah I put my trust," Yaqub declared, his voice resonating with faith. Despite his worries and lingering doubts, he surrendered their fate to the divine will, finding comfort in the belief that Allah would guide and protect them on their journey. With Yaqub's blessings and prayers echoing in their hearts, the brothers set forth on their expedition to Egypt, each taking a different path to enter the city. They navigated bustling streets and markets, their senses keenly attuned to their surroundings. As they approached the granaries where Yusuf oversaw the distribution of grain, a sense of eagerness and uncertainty enveloped them. The memories of their previous encounter with the minister and the weight of their promise weighed heavily upon their hearts. They were then greeted by Yusuf himself. Yusuf inspected them carefully and counted, confirming that all 11 brothers were present. "Yes, there are 11 of you," Yusuf acknowledged, his voice steady and composed. "Therefore, I will allocate 11 camel loads of grain for your provisions. You may depart in the morning. For now, you will stay in my residence as my guests." Yusuf led his brothers to his magnificent palace, where he welcomed them graciously. Inside, he made a calculated decision to split the brothers into pairs, leaving Benyamin apart from the rest. With strategic intent, Yusuf approached Benyamin. "You will stay in my quarters," Yusuf announced, his gaze intense. He guided Benyamin to a secluded area within the palace, away from the company of his brothers. Benyamin, although uncertain, trusted in Yusuf's hospitality and followed his instructions obediently. When Benyamin arrived in his designated quarters within Yusuf's palace, Yusuf approached him with warmth and familiarity. He embraced Benyamin, holding him close, and then revealed his true identity. "I am Yusuf, your brother," Yusuf declared, his voice mixed with emotion. "You are safe here with me." Benyamin, overcome with astonishment and joy, embraced Yusuf tightly. The revelation of Yusuf's identity filled him with a sense of relief and renewed hope. Throughout the night, Yusuf and Benyamin stayed awake, sharing stories and reminiscing about their shared past. They exchanged tales of their childhood, of their father's love, and of the trials they had endured. As morning approached, Benyamin expressed a heartfelt desire to remain with Yusuf rather than return with his brothers. "I don't want to go back with them," Benyamin confessed, his voice laced with vulnerability. "They always taunt me, and I feel safer here with you." Yusuf, mindful of their father's longing, gently rebuked Benyamin's plea. "No, Benyamin," Yusuf replied. "You must return to our father. Think of his sorrow if you do not return." After much discussion and persuasion, Yusuf proposed a plan to play a trick on the rest of the brothers, an act that required Benyamin's cooperation. "I'm going to place the king's golden cup in your bag. This will create the appearance that you have stolen it, giving me the reason to detain you." Benyamin understood the necessity of Yusuf's plan. He nodded in agreement, his heart light with relief. Benyamin was then reunited with his brothers, and they were presented with their allotment of 11 camel loads of grains, as promised by Yusuf. Unbeknown to anyone except Benyamin, the king's cup had been strategically placed in his bag by Yusuf. The brothers, filled with triumph, approached Yusuf confidently. "See, we are honest men. We have brought back our brother Benyamin to prove our integrity." Yusuf nodded in acknowledgement. He observed the brothers closely, his mind racing with the implications of his carefully orchestrated plan. As the brothers prepared to depart from Egypt and return to Canaan, they were overcome with joy and gratitude. They conversed enthusiastically, their voices echoing with newfound hope and optimism. As the brothers journeyed with their newfound provisions, they were suddenly startled by the sound echoing across the desert. "Stop! You people have stolen!" came from the booming voice of an announcer, which was accompanied by Yusuf himself. Confused and alarmed, the brothers halted their travel and turned to face Yusuf and his accompanying companion. "What is missing?" the brothers inquired anxiously. The man explained critically, "A gold cup belonging to the king has been stolen. Whoever finds it will receive an extra load of provisions, so we must search your belongings." Outraged and adamant of their innocence, the brothers protested strongly. "We are not thieves. It is not our custom to steal," they declared with conviction. Undeterred, the man insisted on inspecting their luggage. "And what will happen if I find the stolen item amongst your belongings?" he questioned harshly. The brothers, guided by their principles and the laws of their father Yaqub, responded confidently, "If the stolen cup is found with any one of us, then that person will become a slave as punishment, according to our customs." Unbeknownst to the brothers, Yusuf had orchestrated this plan with strategic precision. He was well aware of the customs and laws practiced by Yaqub and his sons. According to their traditions, a thief would indeed become the slave of the person from whom they stole. As search commenced, tension hung heavy in the air. The brothers watched anxiously as their belongings were scrutinized, their hearts pounding with fear and uncertainty. They watched as the officials progressed through their belongings, leaving Benyamin's bag for last to avoid suspicion. When Benyamin's bag was finally opened and the king's cup was revealed, shock and disbelief rippled through the group. "You are a thief!" the announcer exclaimed, glaring at Benyamin. The brothers recoiled in horror, their minds racing with the implications of Benyamin being accused of theft. "He steals just like his brother who stole before," one of the brothers exclaimed, casting accusations at Benyamin. Yusuf observed the scene with a heavy heart. The mention of his past and the accusations against Benyamin stirred memories of his own unjust ordeal. Scholars had recounted a story from Yusuf's youth, revealing the influence of Yaqub's sister, who had raised him after their mother's early passing. She had grown deeply attached to Yusuf and was reluctant to abandon him when Yaqub sought to bring him back home. At a crucial moment, she hid an item from her house among Yusuf's belongings and then falsely accused him of theft. When Yaqub discovered the item in Yusuf's possession, she insisted that he remain with her as punishment, citing their customs. Yaqub, bound by a tradition, happily agreed. It was only upon her eventual passing that Yusuf was able to return to his father's embrace. "O ruler of the land," one of the brothers implored, addressing Yusuf respectfully, "please let Benyamin go and take one of us instead. Our father is old and will be devastated if Benyamin does not return with us." Yusuf shook his head firmly, his voice resonating with unwavering justice. "No," Yusuf replied, "this would be unjust. An innocent person cannot be held accountable for the actions of the guilty. Benyamin will have to stay, and none of you shall be taken in his place." The eldest brother among them stood resolute, his heart burdened with the weight of their shared oath and the promise made to their father. "I will not return to Canaan without Benyamin," he declared. "We made a solemn oath to protect him and bring him back safely. I cannot face our father until he forgives me and permits my return." The other brothers, torn between their obligations and their fear of disappointing their father, agreed to the eldest's decision. "We must go back and inform our father of what has transpired," one brother suggested reluctantly. "We will tell him that Benyamin is being held in Egypt because of theft and the ruler of the land refuses to release him." When they returned to Yaqub with the news of Benyamin's detention, his heart sank with a familiar sense of fear. "You are lying to me again, just as you lied to me about Yusuf. Benyamin would never steal. You have deceived me once more, and now you seek to deceive me again." The brothers, caught in a web of their own making, struggled to ease Yaqub's doubts and earn his forgiveness. They recounted the events that had unfolded in Egypt, pleading with their father to believe them and to understand the circumstances that had befallen them. Yaqub, torn between anguish and disbelief, confronted his sons with conviction. "No," he declared, his voice trembling with emotion. "I will not believe your tale of deception. Benyamin is innocent, just as Yusuf was innocent." The brothers, faced with Yaqub's disbelief and accusations, pleaded desperately for him to believe their account. They urged him to seek confirmation from others in Egypt or from travelers passing through, confident that their innocence would be proven. But Yaqub, his heart heavy with grief and suspicion, remained steadfast. He could not bear to entertain the possibility of another betrayal from his sons. scarred as he was by the memory of Yusuf's disappearance and the subsequent deceit that had shattered their family. "I will bear patience," Yaqub declared solemnly. "I place my trust in Allah. He is the one who can reunite me with Yusuf and restore peace to our family." As the days passed and Yaqub continued the anguish of longing for his lost sons, his heart grew heavy with sorrow and his eyes blurred with tears. The weight of his grief bore down upon him relentlessly until finally he lost his sight to the darkness of his distress. Yaqub, now deprived of vision, found relief in the remembrance of Allah. He cried out to his Creator, pouring out his heart in supplication and weeping for the son he had lost and the trials that had befallen him. In his anguish, Yaqub's other sons, hardened by guilt and impatience, approached him with callous words. "Why do you burden yourself with such sorrow over Yusuf? Forget about him and move on with your life." But Yaqub, firm in his devotion and grief, rebuked his sons with dignity. "I only grieve my sorrow to Allah, not to you," he replied, his voice burdened with the weight of his suffering. "My grief is between me and my Lord." Despite the pleas and warnings of his sons, Yaqub refused to relinquish his hope and faith. He continued to supplicate to Allah, seeking solace and redemption in the divine mercy that he believed would one day reunite him with his sons. Yaqub, in his enduring sorrow and longing for his lost sons, instructed his remaining sons to return back to Egypt and seek news of Benyamin, and wherever possible, plead with the minister for his release. The brothers, obedient to their father's wishes, embarked on the journey back to their land. Upon their arrival, the brothers approached Yusuf with humility and desperation. "O ruler of the land," they asked, "hard times have befallen our family. We are struck by famine and have come with poor quality merchandise. Please be charitable to us and return to us our brother Benyamin." When Yusuf witnessed his brothers before him, pleading and desperate, his heart swelled with emotions. Overcome by the flood of memories and the weight of years of separation and anguish, he could no longer conceal his true identity. "Do you now realize what you did to Yusuf and his brother in your ignorance?" Yusuf questioned them. At the mention of Yusuf and Benyamin, the realization dawned upon the brothers. With trembling voices and eyes filled with awe, they uttered in astonishment, "Are you Yusuf? Is this truly our brother?" Yusuf nodded. "Yes, I am Yusuf," he confirmed, with tears glistening in his eyes. "And this is my brother. Allah has indeed bestowed His grace upon us. Verily, those who are mindful of Allah and endure with patience will be rewarded." The brothers, stricken with remorse and humility, fell to their knees before Yusuf. "By Allah, He has raised you above us," they acknowledged, their voices filled with regret. "Indeed, we were wrong in what we did to you." Yusuf, moved by their sincere repentance, extended his hand to his brothers. With compassion, he assured them, "There is no blame upon you today," his heart brimming with mercy. "All is forgiven. Go and return to our father and bring him back to me. We shall be reunited as a family once more." Yusuf was deeply moved by the news of his father Yaqub's blindness. He took off his shirt and entrusted it to his brothers. "Take my shirt," Yusuf instructed them, his voice resonating with assurance. "Place it upon our father's face, and by the will of Allah, he will regain his sight." The brothers, humbled and awed by Yusuf's faith and conviction, accepted the shirt with respect. They embarked on the journey back to Canaan, carrying with them the precious garment that bore the hope of their father's healing and the promise of a restored family. At the exact time that the caravan departed from Egypt, heading back towards Canaan, Yaqub's heart was strangely filled with a profound sense of anticipation and longing. His senses were heightened by a familiar scent, a fragrance that stirred his soul and filled him with joy. "I can smell Yusuf!" Yaqub cried, his voice mixed with wonder and certainty. Puzzled by Yaqub's declaration, the people around him exchanged glances and murmured amongst themselves, "We think he has lost his mind due to old age," they speculated, their voices laced with skepticism. Yaqub paid no heed to their speculation. Instead, he turned his focus inward, directing his prayers intensely towards Allah, seeking relief and ease for his heart, knowing that the reunion with his beloved Yusuf was imminent. When the sons returned home, they found their father in a state of heightened emotion. They immediately presented Yusuf's shirt to him. Yaqub held the garment close. Its familiar scent enveloped him, soothing his troubled heart. With tears of gratitude streaming down his face, he gently covered his eyes with the shirt, allowing its essence to fill him with a sense of comfort. In that moment of divine intervention, as Yaqub absorbed the fragrance of his long-lost son, a miraculous transformation occurred. As he removed the shirt from his face, astonishment swept through the room. Yaqub's clouded eyes, which had been dimmed by years of grief and longing, were now restored to their former clarity. With a renewed sense of vision, Yaqub beheld his sons with an overwhelming sense of appreciation and awe at the mercy and blessings bestowed upon him by Allah. "Did I not tell you that I know from Allah that which you do not?" Yaqub declared, his voice filled with awe and gratitude. The brothers, humbled by their father's wisdom and grace, bowed their heads in repentance. "We seek forgiveness from Allah for our transgressions," their voices filled with remorse. Yaqub, his heart overflowing with love and forgiveness, reassured his sons with compassion. "I will ask forgiveness from Allah, for He is the most merciful of those who show mercy." Filled with joy and gratitude, Yaqub and his sons, along with their family, hastily packed their belongings and embarked on their journey to Egypt, where a new life awaited them alongside Yusuf. Upon their arrival, Yusuf was promptly notified of their presence, and with eager anticipation, he arranged for his family to be escorted into the grandeur of the palace courtroom, where he awaited their arrival with bated breath. As the doors swung open and Yaqub with his brothers and their mother stepped into the opulent chamber, Yusuf's heart swelled with emotion at the sight of his long-lost loved ones. Yusuf was sat upon his majestic throne, magnificent and composed. The brothers, together with Yaqub and his wife, prostrated before Yusuf, fulfilling the prophetic dream that had once stirred jealousy and conflict amongst them. The dream had indeed come to fruition. The 11 planets representing Yusuf's brothers, along with the sun symbolizing Yaqub and the moon symbolizing their mother. Tears of joy streamed down Yusuf's face as he rushed forward to embrace his father, overwhelmed by the realization of this long-awaited reunion. With love, Yusuf guided Yaqub with his wife to the adorned royal chairs, where they were seated with the utmost honor and respect. As they settled into their seats, father and son exchanged a gaze filled with a depth of emotion that words could not express. Tears of joy continued to flow freely as they marveled at the miraculous reunion orchestrated by Allah's divine mercy. In a moment of profound gratitude, Yusuf and Yaqub lifted their voices in praise to Allah, their hearts overflowing with love and devotion, for the day when their souls, long separated by time and distance, were finally reunited in the embrace of family and faith. Allah bestowed upon Yusuf everything that many seek in this world: power, authority, fame and wealth. Indeed, if someone had what Yusuf had attained, they might cling to it with the fear of not letting go. Yet, Yusuf's final words offer a profound lesson for us all. He turned to Allah with a heart full of gratitude and humility. "O my sustainer," Yusuf prayed, acknowledging the source of all blessings, "you have granted me sovereignty over this land, and you have bestowed upon me the knowledge of interpreting dreams. You are the creator and originator of the heavens and the earth. You are my guardian in this world and my guardian in the hereafter." Yusuf's prayer encapsulates the essence of faith, a recognition of Allah's sovereignty and a profound trust in His divine plan. In his final moments, Yusuf asked Allah for a noble end. "When I die, Make me amongst those who have submitted themselves entirely to you, and join me with the righteous and pious. This heartfelt supplication serves as a timeless lesson for humanity. Yusuf's life exemplifies resilience, patience, and steadfast trust in Allah's wisdom. Despite the trials and tribulations he endured, Yusuf emerged as a beacon of faith and righteousness. As we reflect on Yusuf's journey and his parting words, let us internalize the virtues of submission, humility, and gratitude. May we strive to emulate Yusuf's firm devotion to Allah, seeking His guidance and mercy in all aspects of our lives. And may we, like Yusuf, aspire to a noble end, a return to our Creator in a state of complete submission and devotion.